Good evening and welcome in. My name is Christina Ann, and I am the host of a LinkedIn Live series called From Woo to Wow, Inspired Conversations with Professionals and Industry Experts. We're going to be talking to some amazing guests over the next few weeks, and we're going to understand better how they found success on the pathway of their careers and their lives at the very intersection of mindfulness, intention, and inspired action. I'm going to introduce you right now to a really good friend of mine, humbled and honored to have her on, Ms. Debbie Mitchell, executive TV producer who has carved a pathway of fire for herself in the TV production world. She has pivoted time and again and has been met with success. I'm not going to give it all away now. I'm going to call her in to introduce herself, Ms. Debbie Mitchell.
Hi, sweetie. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm fine. What a great introduction. Oh my gosh. Oh my
I had
gosh.
to tone it down because, and we're going to get into it. We're going to get all into it, but I had to tone it down. I just get so excited and I got to, stop my little fangirl self because you're such an amazing soul.
Oh, thank you so much. First of all, congratulations on your LinkedIn Live, your debut, and to invite me to be on the debut version of it. I just thank you. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into it with you.
Thank you. Well, I had to do it big, and I just said, you know what? I'm going to call in the big dogs. And you are an expert and a master at what you do and have led such an inspired life. And that's really what this is all about. And so I'm so happy to share your story with all of our guests today. And for you in the audience, whether you're streaming from Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or even YouTube, please join the conversation with us. Type in the comments, your questions, anything you have for Debbie. You are about to be floored.
Well, I'm ready whenever you are.
Let's do it. Let's just get into it. Let's go back to the beginning, where it all started for you. Where did you find your passion for video production?
I was very lucky, Christina. When I went to college, I knew I wanted to tell stories, and I used to love photography. So I thought I was going to be a photojournalist. And then I had a great counselor at Fordham who urged me to do an internship. I didn't know anything about internships, but he said, do an internship. It'll give you a little bit of taste of television. You might like it. And I thought, okay, I'll do it. I ended up getting an internship at WABC. And I worked on, it was called The Morning Show with Regis Philbin. It was a local show. And it was me, Michael Gelman was there, Regis, Cindy Garvey, and it was a great daily morning program. And I totally fell in love with television. We would sit in these meetings, come up with ideas, and the next day or the day after, it would be on television. And I just thought it was the best thing ever. I was an intern and I kept extending my internship, hoping to get a job, and it didn't happen, but I worked really hard. And my mom used to say she never saw someone work so hard for nothing, for free. So that's how much I loved it. But I met some great producers while I was there. And, I learned that relationships are really important because one of the producers I met actually helped me to get my next job in television while I was still in college. So I learned that relationships are important. I like to tell people who are looking at interns, because interns do work hard. We're there to get the experience, but they do work hard. So if you can pay your intern, that would be great, because I didn't get paid. I just did it for the love of it. And as an intern, if you're going to work as though you're getting paid, work really hard. So those are the 2 points that I would take away from just internships and what I learned from my first job in television. So the second job, I'll let you go.
Yeah, so I'm floored just by that in and of itself, because we think we have it all figured out. We know what we love, and then we might have an end goal that we envision for ourselves. And it's really about us letting go, I think, of that end goal of what it may be, picking up the clues. For you, it was a mentor, right? That kind of put something in your ear and you said, I'll check it out. And then you end up with all these amazing people at an internship. Granted, you're not getting paid, but you're finding and you're fueling your passion. And that in turn leads to even more opportunities.
Yep, exactly. And that's what happened. I left the internship. I was still in college. One of the producers I met, Drusilla, called me and said she'd heard about a job at a show called Essence, the television program. And Essence magazine at the time had a weekly syndicated TV show. And I went in and interviewed for the job, and it was for a production secretary, and I got it. And the executive producer at the time, Dean Radcliffe Smith, made me promise that I'd finish college because I was still in school. I was in my junior year of college, but I got the job, and I went to school at night and finished up. And when I graduated, I had a job at Essence, the television program. So it was great. Again, worked with some amazing people. Actually got a chance to meet Oprah Winfrey because we interviewed her. Yeah, her talk show was just starting. And we interviewed her for our show. And as a little, out of school college student, Miss Winfrey, do you have any advice for me? And she said, do what you love. Find your passion and do what you love. So even back then, she was giving that kind of advice. And look at it, years later, she is the Oprah Winfrey. But, to meet her so young in my career, it was a really great experience. So I took her advice, and I stuck with what I loved. And it led to my next job. I left there and went on to work in daytime talk. So that's another chapter.
See, it just keeps getting better. I'm like, you knew Oprah before she was Oprah. That's amazing. And it's even more amazing that she was able to bestow some wisdom upon you, and it wasn't lost on you. And you've clearly exemplified that throughout your life.
Yeah, I would have worked for free. I really would have. I'm glad I didn't have to. I'm glad it worked out the way it did. But yeah. And the next job was with Geraldo. I didn't know what it was going to turn into. Back in the day, jobs were posted in the newspaper, and I saw an ad for a job at a production company called the Investigative News Group. They were looking for researchers, I think it was. And I called and kept calling, and I got an interview and went in, and it turned out it was Geraldo's production company, and he was just finishing up his special. I think it was his Mafia special. And they said to me, well, we don't need you for the special, but he's going to have a talk show. And at that time, the only talk show that was on, I think, was Sally Jesse. Montel wasn't even on yet, but Oprah was just coming out. And I said, okay, I'm interested. And they said, we can only guarantee you 13 weeks of work. We don't know what's going to happen after 13 weeks. And I said, I don't care. I want it. And I kept calling them for the job, and I finally got it. My mom thought I was crazy. She said, you're leaving a full-time job to go work for 13 weeks. And I said, yes, that's what I want to do. And it turned into the greatest adventure. I mean, it was a great group of us working together to be a talk show producer, to work with someone who was a news personality. He knew news. We were doing groundbreaking stories. We got it was very controversial, but we did the things that we did then. It's on TV right now. So we were ahead of the game by miles. And so, 13 weeks ended up turning into 11 years. I was with his show from the start of the show to the end of the show. And I worked in different positions along the way, from researcher to field producer to studio producer to supervising producer. At one point I was on air with him towards the end of the talk show, a few years before the talk show ended. So I got a very well-rounded career working in his shop. And I always tell people that if you could be a talk show producer, especially back in the day, because we didn't have Google, we were working the phones, we were getting out there on the street, pounding the pavements, coming up with ideas. If you could be a talk show producer back in those days, you were an amazing producer. So I always tell anyone that if they see someone's resume and it has talk show producer on it, you should take a look at them and hire them, because a producer is a great addition to any business staff. And so, and I learned a lot of lessons from Geraldo himself. I mean, he was always thinking ahead. He's very smart and always evolving. And change is always, he said, this will not last. Change is always a part of life. So always be ready for a change. And he's right. You always need to be ready for some kind of change.
I don't think there's a single person that can live through this entire year thinking that, that things don't change. And it seems though that you were tuned into that far
Mm-hmm.
earlier in the game, which just makes navigating current waters a little bit smoother, if you will. But there's a lot to unpack there. Taking that leap of faith, going into something that you felt that could give you some learnings and a new experience, be it for 13 weeks or as it turned out, 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
So amazing. And it's TV talk show. I mean, I grew up, watching those, or my mom was watching them, and it was really story making, not just finding it, but really, or telling the story, but you had to make it. And it's that human connection and exploring the human condition, I think, is what a lot of people fell in love with. And back then, prior to social media, those were how you could kind of peer into people's behind the scenes, which is what currently now, all privy to, right, via social media. But you were there when it all happened, and I'm sure, and we'll get into that too, this transition into digital, but how you harness everything that you learned in the trenches, really.
It really was.
Applying it today.
I as the idea of pivoting, that is the word for 2020, the pivot, taking the pivot. And working with in talk really taught me a lot about thinking on my feet and thinking ahead. And when the talk show ended and it was time to get another job, I didn't want to go into talk again because I felt I'd done that. So I was able to make a transition and get into news. And covering news is a whole different animal. It's covering stories as they break. It's being precise, being accurate, being, despite what everyone is saying about fake news, there's nothing fake about it. It's all, it's about being correct and getting the right information out there. And morning television is it's a lot. It's 2 hours of daily segments. I can't, it must be 20 segments a show. I'm thinking these shows are 2 hours long. You get early mornings, you're up at 4:35, the show goes live at 7. So you're working early morning, and you would think your day is over early, but not necessarily, because if there's breaking news, you're staying until the stories are booked and the show is done. So it's a different type of lifestyle, but I met some great people along the way. I worked with some very smart people. Brian Gumbel, Hannah Storm was on this, was one of the anchors. Renee Styler, who you met when we went to the social media event at Disney. But news is a really interesting and hard life, but it's a good one. And some people, it's in their blood. They're news junkies. They love it. So so I was able to do that for 10 years. And then there was another pivot, another change.
We're going to get into that. I'm looking at a question pop up from Wayne in the audience, and he's asking, do you feel that kind of sacrifice at the beginning of a career is lost, since so many coming out of college or entering certain industries are looking to immediately make 6 figures?
Yeah, I do. I don't think the same kind of commitment to the work is there. Everyone wants to get rich or make money, big money quickly. And that's not why you should get into a profession. It really goes back to doing what you love. I didn't know how much money you could make in television when I was doing it. I had no idea. And it turned out to be, it's a lucrative career. You can do really well in it. But kids today, I think they want everything fast. Titles come much faster now. You don't have to work as hard. We had to work years before we became producers or executive producers. And now producers are getting out of school and getting titles, and shows are giving kids titles or workers titles in order to not pay them a lot of money. So it's a very different world when it comes to doing the work and paying your dues. So yes, I think Wayne asked that question. Yes, Wayne, I do feel that.
Yeah, I think along those same lines as you, there's invaluable things that are acquired through the actual, in the doing, right? We're not human beings, we are human doings. And in the doing, when things do change and when the employer goes away or the industry shifts, you have to go back to the expertise that you gathered only in the doing to really figure out a way to move forward with confidence, like you've done so many times.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I feel that all the things that I've learned in I won't say how many years that I've been doing this, decades that I've been doing it, has really contributed to me being more comfortable with every pivot that I've had to make. And so 10 years ago, I had to make a very sudden pivot out of CBS. And it came out of nowhere. I was thrown off balance by it, but I had to stand up and say, okay, what am I going to do next? And it was a good time for me to just take stock of what was happening, because social media was just becoming a thing. And being in a network, your head is down. You're just working, and not really able to pay attention to all the new developments. But once I left the network and I took a breath and collected myself, I reconnected again, going back to how important networks are. I reconnected with one of CBS's former anchors, Renee Seiler. I used to produce what was one of her producers, and she was in that space, the digital space, and blogging and on social media, and I had no idea what it was. And she said, you gotta learn it. And so I had to start over. I had to figure out what Facebook was, what Twitter was. I actually ended up doing an internship with her, putting, my experience aside, titles aside. I was an intern again. I was a grown, experienced woman doing an internship, learning how to navigate this new world of this new digital world. And I took a weekend course with Srinivasan, who teaches an amazing social media course. If you ever want to learn it, you should look him up and take his class, his weekends. And I connected with Renee. I'm not a mommy, but she's a mom blogger, and I was hanging out with mom bloggers, and that's how I actually ended up meeting you, because I went on a couple of Disney trips, and this is where we met. And it was a social media moms event, and I had a blast.
That was a magical week. I don't know if the audience knows exactly what that is. And I was out there actually with my employer at the time, and I was a product marketing person, and I was supposed to be out there teaching and promoting product to the mommy bloggers and to all the event attendees. And it's a week-long trip hosted by Disney. Then they show you all the new theme of park attractions, and kind of really give you, as the mommy blogger, all the details, all the behind the scenes, because a lot of times the mommy bloggers, of course, they're blogging about Disney, one of the greatest children's brands that are ever to grace our earth, if you will. And so it's funny that we met there. I think everything about the entire week was so magical, and it goes back to the strength in relationships. I mean, who would have thunk it, right?
Exactly. Years later.
Yeah, I wasn't an invited guest. I was a worker bee, and I actually had my family there with me. And I was just so thankful to meet you, and we connected instantly. And I'm so glad that we had a chance to maintain that over the years.
Again, relationships, a lot. That's what I've learned. Relationships, networking, keeping in touch with people. And sometimes, like you said, you just meet people by chance, and then there's a connection. So that's what we had. But that was a great weekend. I didn't know what to expect, because I have to say I wasn't a Disney. What are they called? Disneyite. There's a name for them. I can't remember. But Renee invited me. I went, and it was amazing. I actually understand how Disney is brand. They know how to brand beyond, and I learned so much just from that weekend that we were there. So yeah, it was great. And so I got into the digital space slowly but surely, started blogging, and really began to understand how to use the digital space. And as a journalist, it's very different, social media, because we're taught not to get involved, not to share ourselves. But social media is about sharing yourselves and telling your story and getting involved and being in it. So it was such a different experience, and it was interesting to see how it evolved from the time I left CBS to now, how it slowly has come into place. In the beginning, Um, Brands weren't really in tuned, and they weren't aware of that they needed a social media footprint. They still didn't know how to get out there. But then slowly you saw it creeping into television. I actually I created a blog, Ready for Air, and I was blogging about what I know, television. So that's what I did, and it allowed me to have access to different events and different people. And I tried to stay in this TV area, so I actually followed through on several people in the industry who were coming along with me as far as learning about the digital space. And Meredith Vieira, she had a talk show, and she actually had an event where she was launching her YouTube channel. So I actually got to sit down and talk to her, and to speak with a fellow journalist just about the transition and how things were changing. It was pretty amazing. So we to be in the process, to see it moving along, and I was able to actually connect with brands, because brands were seeing the value of the digital space. And my team at the time, we connected with a couple of people in the tourism board and people when we could travel back in the day when we could travel. And so we had a chance to travel to a couple of places. There's my team. We went to the British Virgin Islands. We got to interview Taraji Henson at the time when she was appearing at an event. So doors started to open up, and I could see how things were changing, how the digital space was becoming much more important. So that was another pivot. And so here I am 10 years later, and social media is second nature to almost everyone at this point.
I think there's still people coming on board, especially now, right? With 2020 in our homes, having to reassess where we are. A lot of people have lost their jobs, and instead of looking for just another replacement corporation, maybe a lot of them are going back inside and kind of figuring out, what am I passionate about? Where do I want to go with this? It's not just a stepping stone to the side. You want to step forward into the power and harnessing everything that's come before you, right?
Exactly. And the pause, I call it the pause of 2020, because no one could have told any of us that we would be dealing with anything like this. And we've been put on pause. And so it is a time to be reflective, to gather ourselves professionally, personally, and sit down and just rethink how we are going to move forward and pivot. We're all in a massive pivot. So when this all happened, I thought, wow, and I feel like I've been preparing for this all this time, because working remotely, working in the digital space, now we're all in the space and we're all having to get up to speed. So I kind of feel like, all right, I'm ready for this. So as you said earlier, all the things that I learned along the way, they're coming into play right now.
That's a big thing, I think, because there's a lot of people who have been, blessed enough, I think, that haven't been really shaken out of their normal. And I see it written every single day, this quote unquote new normal. And when you've lived a life that has been has given you opportunities to change and to pivot and to really go back to who you are and reevaluate your growth and where you want to be. I think this is second nature to you. In 2020, I know for me, I also went from the corporate world and then made my foray into consulting and working for myself. Totally different world for me. I didn't see it coming, just like you, and it forced me to realign and really get real with myself of what are the things that I loved about that life, part of my life, and what are the things that I'd love to improve so that I can make the next step even better.
And what did you come up with? What did you change? I know I've changed a couple of very key things. So personally and professionally, what have you changed?
Oh, I think my whole life is really different now. And you can say that it's not, but of course, especially with 2020, I am homeschooling my children. I'm working out of my home. I'm choosing to work with partners and clients that align with my values, really soul-centered individuals like yourself that want to shine a light into this world. And it's really given me something to wake up with a lot of passion and enthusiasm for every day.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because at the beginning of this year, I did make a decision to make some personal changes. So I decided to do something as simple as changing my diet. I became plant-based, and I still eat fish, but I gave up meat, gave up alcohol, and I just felt I needed to just change and take care of my body, take better care of myself. And it's turned out to be so important, especially now, because everyone talks about just how important it is to have a strong immune system to deal with COVID-19 and to take care of yourself, exercise, and all of that was already in play for me. So it just kind of fell into place. And I thought, wow, I didn't know that nobody knew this was going to happen, but I feel like, okay, I'm on my way to being ready for it. And it's made me feel stronger and made my mind clearer. So I'm able to think about the ways that I can pivot professionally. And so that was really important. And I know you became vegan this year too, right?
Accidentally, I did. And I say accidentally because I didn't plan it. I didn't plan it at all. There was a period of time where I went through some significant losses in my life and had to reevaluate, where I was going health-wise, and literally was binging on Netflix and reading a lot of articles literally within one day. Didn't leave my bed because I was kind of going through it at the time, and somehow gravitated towards all that content, and then was just never able to put a piece of meat on my plate ever again. And that was in late February, right before COVID became a thing, although, little bits here and there, right, in the media, but we weren't on lockdown or anything. And I am a person that believes that a lot of times your soul knows the way, and you'll pick up on different things. Like, I'm not sure why I'm interested in X, Y, and Z, but I'm just going to go explore that. And I really feel like veganism was one of the things for me that my oversoul knew somehow to prepare, to realign, and to really get my vibration, together, if you will. And it's amazing that you were on the same trajectory. We hadn't talked about that till recently.
Until recently, yeah. It just kind of came up in conversation. But I feel my mind is clearer. Yes. I feel lighter. I feel stronger. And all of that has been really helpful in the last 8 months because, it's been really trying, just trying to figure out and be positive about moving forward. So, yeah. And in the midst of all this clarity and just, coming to terms, I'm still trying to figure out, well, okay, work-wise, what am I going to do professionally? And again, a pivot. So, yes.
And then here we are, right? One of the things, that's why we named the segment, right, From Woo to Wow, because a lot of times people think about your intuition and, meditation and things about going really internally and trying to find those answers. It's a lot of times it's from woo-woo, and a lot of times really what you do need is to tune into that so that you can make clear, better decisions for yourself in the long term.
Yeah, that is true. And it does. I mean, what kind of differences have you felt with the change in your diet? I mean, how do you feel?
I'm more energetic. I am more confident now. There's no sleepless nights. I wake up refreshed and I jump right into my meditations and I journal every day, and I'm more creative. If you will, the juices are just flowing, and I'm more confident in picking up the breadcrumbs that, happen upon my path. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, it really works. It really does. I got back into my yoga practice, and that's been very helpful. So, just clearing your mind. But yeah, in thinking, and I was just thinking, okay, what is going to happen? We can't go out. We can't interact with people. How long will this be? What's going to be the end? And you can't predict the end. You don't know. So the not knowing is worse. You're just kind of waiting. So what do you do in the meantime? And it was when I was sitting on the many Zoom calls and GoToMeeting calls, just obviously to connect with people. I was sitting there and I thought, this could be more interesting. These could be more entertaining, informative, entertaining, and engaging. And I felt badly for a lot of people who just had to figure it out on the fly because they were suddenly working at home, and it's like, okay, you're doing Zoom, but what does that mean? Just sitting in a box and being there. So I decided to, okay, let's use some of my skills with some of the tools that are out there and just make the experience more engaging, elevate the online experience. And so that's how this new chapter has come about, where I've pivoted into live streaming and working with a team in which I'm creating interesting and more creative online experiences.
I see it. Everyone sees it, as a matter of fact, because your team is running the magic, and there's a lot of magic to it behind the stream right here. And my tiara is off to you. I think you do an amazing job, and there's a lot of people that can benefit from your expertise and your guidance to make this shift. Zoom fatigue, as I know that you and I have talked about before, is a real thing. So what are some of the things though that you bring now to the table in your new experience?
Oh, and the new experience. Okay, so what I like to say is, the anchors and the television personalities that you see on TV, they are good, but they do have a little help. So what we offer is that little bit of help to you, to individuals, to corporations, to brands, in order to polish the way they present their message by using video, photos, audio, create a nice flow to the conversation, because you do want it to flow so that it has a beginning, middle, end. Like I said, we're open to working with all different types. Last year, I spent a year working with, I did a lot of work with writers, authors, and I feel bad for them because they can't, like many of us, go out, so they can't go out on book tours. So I know a lot of authors, and I've worked with several. As a matter of fact, one of the authors who I recently worked with in September, as a matter of fact, she's an independent author, but she had no idea what a live stream event could do. And so I approached her, and we actually put on an event for her, and it went very well. I wanted to show you we created an animation for her, so just to see some of the things that we can do, so you can see it. The name of the book is American Runaway, and it's by Audrey Edwards. So if we have the animation, I'm going to ask Patrice to play it for us, and then you can. So that was just the beginning of it, and then we went into this conversation that ran almost 2 hours, and it was a transatlantic conversation with 4 guests who were in Paris, and she happens to be quarantined or sheltering in place in Brooklyn, and the host was in California. So we were able to bring in discussions with people from all around the world, and she the response was really amazing. So she afterwards said she would have never thought to do something like that because it just wasn't on her radar. So I like introducing the concept to people and showing them that yes, we may be stuck inside. The problem is you can't go out and gather, but you can still have engaging conversation even though you're online. So that's one of the clients that I work with. And I'm very excited about the next client I'm working with. So he's an author also, and he just put out his latest book. He's a very well-respected ethnobotanist. His name is Dr. Mark J. Plotkin, and he just had an article in the New York Times. And he has written, one of his most famous books is The Tales of the Shaman's Apprentice. And he is he's been studying ethnobotany for over a decade. So he studies the Amazon rainforest. And we're going to be doing his virtual book launch for his latest book, which is The Amazon, What Everyone Needs to Know. Can you see it? Yeah. So we're going to be, hopefully the virtual event will happen in November. So we're talking to him about setting up a date, but it's going to be very interesting, first of all, because it's all about climate change, how the Amazon forest is important as far as medicinal, how it can help us medicinally. And he's just a wealth of information. So it's going to be very interesting to see what comes out of that conversation. But we are working with all kinds of people. And it's fun for me to help people polish their message, come on camera, groomed and ready to go, just like if I was in a network studio doing it.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that I think you allow people to do the thing, whatever that is, right? And let them do their thing so that you can do your thing. Or versus the other way around, maybe it's you doing your thing so they can do their thing. But either way, it's an amazing thing. And one of the things I never would have thought, that you could do, these virtual book launches and do so significantly. First, and I'm going back to it because I'm all about the plants, and I love holistic healing and how Mother Earth just provides so much for us. So I'm gonna need to buy that book and attend that event. So he's got one sold, at least to me.
Yes.
But it's what an interesting thing that it goes cross industry. From individual creators, artists, writers, entrepreneurs, all the way up to big business, because even the corporations who have relied on live events like the CBSs and the Photo Pluses of the world into their daily meetings, you've got to make the change and embracing the change and being able to navigate it through. I think Bruce Lee maybe, he says, be like water. Right, just to let it flow through you, and versus grabbing on to the things that are being taken away from us.
I like that. What is it? Be like water. Be like water. Yeah. I was telling you the other day that there's going to be a lot more pressure on companies when it comes to their customer service, because we can no longer go out and experience things firsthand. You're going to have to rely on recommendations, someone experiencing, either working with you and having a good experience, or seeing something and being impressed with the presentation, and then they'll recommend you. So there's going to be a lot more pressure on companies and brands to do better when it comes to their customer service. So it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds.
Yeah, it's a lot to it, right? I think you mentioned even earlier in the conversation about how previously, even especially in the news sector, you weren't as an anchor supposed to give your personal opinions, and where you stood on things, you were just supposed to report factually. Now it's like, if you don't, they don't believe you. They want to know where you stand on the issues. They want to know what you're about. And that entails telling an authentic, strong story.
Yes, it does. And some people are really good at telling their stories, and others not so much. And there's nothing wrong with that, because storytelling, I think, is an art. And there's so many things to think about when you're presenting, especially in a time frame, whether it's a TV segment for 3 minutes, 4 minutes, all of that is controlled time, and you have to present in a certain way. And while giving your information, also be mindful of your guests and the information you're trying to get from them. So you're juggling a lot of balls when you're trying to tell the story. So it's a little help is always nice when you can get that.
Absolutely. So other than the books that you've got coming out and you're working with different individuals, I think, what are your challenges today, and how are you rising to meet those?
Oh, that's a good one. My challenges today, let's see. I think my challenges are very similar to many people out there. Trying to stay connected. It takes time and energy to reach out, and people are busy. So you can't take things personally if they don't get back to you, but you should try and reach out, and to just just to say hello, because I think the state that we're in now is very isolating. And I could be home and the phone doesn't ring. Your phone doesn't ring anymore. Everything's on the computer. So you do need to make an effort to reach out and to connect with people, even if it's a 10-minute phone call, 10-minute hello. So that, I would say, is one of the challenges.
That's a big one. That's a big one, I think, especially when you talk about living an intentional and a mindful life. You don't manifest things out of magic. You actually have to put forth effort, and that's where inspired action comes in. Putting yourself in positions where people will call on your name, who will remember you, because it's literally out of sight, out of mind right now. Right?
It really is.
And you may be calling to see about potentially, helping on a project, et cetera, but you just never know when you make that phone call. That person may be needing to hear from you just as much as you need to hear from them. Exactly.
And just picking up the phone. I'm a big phone person. I know it's a little outdated, but I like the phone. And so a phone call, and people love to text, and texting is efficient, but if there's something missing, I feel, with it, and to hear the human voice. So, we can't hug, we can't, it's just, there's so many just the natural things that you want to do that you just can't do anymore for now. So you can talk, your voice, you can just, take a little time. It just shows that there's some interest, and that's all it is. Yeah, that's all you need.
I think that brings you closer in the considerations that when you talk professionally, because you have made that effort and you do have that connection. In marketing 101, right? They say they have to know you, they have to like you, and they have to trust you. And building that trust is all within the relationship, and it's not really done over DM or text here and there, or even commenting on a post. Well, all those things are great. The more you can get with that person on the phone, the voice is amazing. I used to not be a phone person. I'll be honest.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. No, I was always. I can tell a lot from a phone. I just think so. Why didn't you like the phone?
Probably because you can tell a lot from a voice. And my face, like I don't have a poker face. Like you'll know when I'm like thinking something, but you also know when I'm totally into you and vibing, and that's really what we're all seeking right now. Back in corporate, I would be just send me an email, or I would be texting somebody and then they call and I'm freaking out at the phone, like, why are you calling me?
So I'd be calling and you're looking at the phone. You're like, why is the phone ringing?
I pivoted, girl. That's the old me.
Okay. See?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's what I do encourage, though, for everyone who's watching. If you haven't started to call people on the phone, it's going to feel a little weird at first because we haven't been doing that. But if you're seeking connection and you just don't know how to get started, while scrolling through the social channels can be a feeling of connection. If you actually jump on the phone and you hear someone's laugh and their energy, it's quite amazing. It can totally shift your energy the entire day. And then when your energy is shifted in this high vibrational state, you'll call in other opportunities. That part is magic, and that magic is very real.
Yeah, I had a call with a coworker I hadn't spoken to. It's been a few years. I spoke to him. Was it today or yesterday? I think it was yesterday. And it's funny. First, I texted him, and he wrote back. He said, "Who is this?" So I had to explain who I was, and he's like, "Oh!" And then we set up a call, and then we ended up talking for at least an hour, and it was just so nice. I mean, yeah, we caught up. We laughed about silly stuff, and it was just nice, and we're now back on each other's radar. And so the best ones are when you can not see or speak to someone in a long time, like you and I, and then when we get on the phone, it's as though we'd spoken just yesterday.
Yeah,
which is what happened. So that's nice.
Those are kindred souls, and really, your whole. I'm just so enamored by your whole career, and that's why I wanted to bring you on, because all the people that you've called in, all these powerhouses, these big names, there's a reason why you're within their circles. It's that vibrational attraction, the matching of
Oh,
energy. And I feel like I'm blessed to know you, because I'm like, 1 degree of separation from Oprah and all them ones. But through your services, though,
mhm.
you can help bridge that gap, that connection to, while I'm over here doing my thing, you can be the conduit to really expressing that in the way it deserves to be expressed.
And how, I'm going to ask you, how is this experience? Because when we first started to work together, I came to you and I said, let me do this for you. And tell me, what do you think?
Wow. Well, you are the reason why it's happening. It's like, it's quite amazing, because you've been, my mentor, you've been my rock, my tech person. The whole team has really rallied around my mission to make sure that not only is my vision carried out, but also elevated, things that I didn't think about, so that I didn't have to worry. So I can just sit here and chat to you and just be in your presence. So there's so much stuff that goes into a production.
Yeah, yeah,
It,
that is true.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing. And back in my corporate life, which is like my accidental career in public speaking, I had all of that as well. See, so you'd show up and you'd have the crew there, and you'd have all the tech people, and you just pretty much showed up on the camera, and you could do your thing. And there's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah.
And the thing is, having a great team behind you allows you to do that, because you can have all these passions and all these dreams. And again, it's not magic, but you don't have to create it all by yourself. You can co-create it with
Hmm.
professionals and experts.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And I love my team. I have a great team. And yes, thank you, team. uh, so some of them are there. Those are some from the a few years ago, but I have David, Patrice, Laura, Pierre, Daryl. They're all great. And we come together and we make it happen. I know I saw the change in you, because when we first started, you were a little hesitant, but you relaxed into it, and you're enjoying it. So that's what I like to see. I like to see the client happy and enjoying what they're doing.
You made it fun again. So that was that. I think it took 1 call, maybe 2 calls. But I think you called with somebody on your team to work out some things, and I think I jumped right back on the phone. And of course, forgive me, I texted you. I didn't call you to tell you, but I was like, "Let's do it bigger. Let's just do all."
That's what you said. I was like,
Yeah,
oh.
I'm not gonna lie. We're just gonna let's just get it all out there. I'm gonna keep it 100. I was like, let's stream at lunchtime on Wednesday, because ain't no one gonna turn it.
You were burying us in the corner, and then all of a sudden,
Right? Who does that, right? Who does that? Who wants to go on a live stream and then they pick like 2 a.m., no one's gonna tune in. Makes no sense.
So yes, you said let's go big. I was like, okay.
But you know what? Once I gave you that green light, though, I really felt like you didn't let me go back to it. You just like, okay, we're here now, and it takes that confidence, right? And if you don't have it within yourself, having a strong team around you that can remind you of just how awesome it's going to be, it's a game changer. It really is.
Yeah, it really is. It makes such a difference. So, as an entrepreneur, I've learned a lot of lessons. I've had to pivot quite a few times. I've made some mistakes, but you get up, brush it off, and you keep moving. And I know that there are a lot of entrepreneurs that are going to come out of this 2020 pause, because we have to figure it out. We got to figure out. Jobs are disappearing. We have to come up with new things to do. People are brushing off their LinkedIn profiles and just looking around. So it's going to be a lot of change moving forward, a lot of pivoting and new businesses coming up, and it's going to be an exciting time. An exciting time. So you got to be open to all the possibilities that are out there.
Yeah, I'm here for it. I hear all those things, and I'm thinking it's just ripe with opportunity. So much has been cleared out so that we can reassess what we want to rebuild and make it bigger and better than we even imagined.
Exactly. Wow. This has been fun. This has been great.
Yeah, thank you so much. I can't say it enough. I'm your friend, but I also feel like I'm a huge fan just because of all the things that you have done for yourself and for others over the course of your career. So I appreciate you for doing everything you've done, and really just for being part of my circle.
Oh, the same with you. The same. I feel the same way about you. Absolutely. You are who I wanted to bring into my circle at this time in my life, and it's going to be great. It's going to be great to be reconnected again. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And for everyone who's tuned in across all the platforms, we thank you. If you tune in and you replay this, please leave a comment, share it out.
Are there any more questions? Wait, are there any more questions? I was just looking. Okay. I think we're good.
Give it a second. But yeah, so whenever, if you tuned in on the live or on one of the replays, I genuinely believe that you're hearing the messages when you're supposed to be hearing them. Reach out to us. I think that we've scrolled our Instagram handles, our Twitter handles on there. You've got our email.
You got comments coming in, though. You have comments. Great job. Great conversation. Thank you.
You guys are awesome.
Yeah. So true. Look at that. Yeah, that's great. The team is really critical. Yeah, this is good.
The team is everything. It really is. You're trying.
Well, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No worries. You're doing your thing. That's your producer hat back on, girl. Look over there. But thank you guys all so much for coming out and being part of it today. Catch up with us on social media. And, until next time, aloha and mahalo.